Leave it to Mama Diggs. She's always got some good props. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. I want to thank Deputy Chief Myers and the Division of Police, Marion Stuckey in Columbus Public Health, the Be Smart campaign, and Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, Melissa Thomas St. Clair, and Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children. Obviously, the incomparable Mama Deborah Diggs, and the good bishop, the leader of this flock, Bishop Timothy Clark. Thank you for allowing us to be here today as we announce these important steps forward in all of our local faith community, some of which you'll hear from today. We're coming today with an important message and another round of resources as our community continues to grapple with the deadly gun violence that's sweeping across the country. So many of our neighbors are experiencing the traumatic fallout firsthand, the pain, the loss, the fear, the uncertainty. But all of us share the overriding belief that we can and should do more to protect our residents, particularly kids. As you all know, in the last 3 years, Centers for Disease Control have shared that more young people are dying in America by gun violence than traffic accidents. First time in the history of the Republic. It's teens and young adults who are so very often on the front lines of this tragic violence. But that's because guns are everywhere. Everyone seems to have one. They're flooding into our city. They're pouring into other cities. They're crisscrossing boundaries and borders nationwide at an alarming scale and speed. They've never been easier to acquire than they are right now, thanks to the most reckless and dangerous gun laws in the history of our state. But that doesn't mean we have to surrender to the status quo. Quite the opposite. We will not rest. We will not yield. We will not stand down until we've done everything within our power to end the violence, to protect our teens, our youth, the residents of every age and every walk of life, and to strengthen the safety and security of every Columbus neighborhood. Thousands of families are counting on us to give them the tools, services, and support they need to help keep their loved ones safe. And that's why we're here today. Just over a month ago, I stood with Columbus Police, Columbus Public Health, City Attorney Zach Klein to announce we'd be giving away lockboxes for free to members of our community. Since then, Public Health has distributed more than 600 lockboxes and more than 1,900 since the year began. That's great work we can be proud of. Clearly, there's a pressing need to do more, and we're stepping up to the plate. But we need the community to do more too, and that is to take responsibility, if you have firearms, to make sure they're safely stored at home. And we ask folks not to leave their firearms in cars. Oftentimes, those are the places that folks involved with illegal criminal activity target because they know people can't take their firearms into certain places. One of the gangs on the west side has really targeted a couple of different shopping areas around the city and are funding their illegal crime by stealing guns from cars in those areas. That's why we're teaming up with Be Smart and Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, to hand out gun locks to residents at all of the remaining Rise Up C-Bus events planned for this summer. The next one is here tonight, here at First Church of God from 4:30 till 7:30. We've got more than half a dozen other events planned for the coming weeks. Please visit columbus.gov/RiseUpCBus for the complete schedule. But here's the key point we want everyone in our community to take away from this announcement. As I said, if you have a firearm in your home, lock it up. And if you don't have a way to lock it up, get in touch with the city. We will provide one for you. Guns are not toys. They are not a responsibility to be ignored or taken lightly. Owning a gun is a very serious commitment and responsibility, one that requires thoughtful planning, constant vigilance, and clear and honest communication within your household. And if you own a gun, whatever you do, as I mentioned, car, criminal gangs are looking for opportunities to build up their arsenals, breaking into vehicles hoping to feed the supply of weapons they need to commit acts of deadly violence. But it isn't just the gun we want you to lock up. It's the ammunition, too. Ammunition must be stowed away safely and securely as well, separate from the weapon and out of the reach of children, teens, and others who shouldn't have access to it. This follows guidance from Columbus Public Health, the CDC, and other public health agencies across the country, because as you all know by now in excruciating detail, gun violence is a public health crisis. As I mentioned, CDC has well documented that guns are now the leading cause of death for children and teens. Let me repeat that out loud. Guns are the leading cause of death for children and teens in America. Not traffic accidents, not cancer, not a virus. Quite honestly, if we knew that there was a cancer or a virus killing our children, targeting our children, we would come together, bring the best and the brightest, research, medical experts, and develop a virus. Take a look at the facts. This is not about ideology and partisanship. This is just following the facts, and we know what we need to do. And again, if the state legislature is unwilling or lacks the courage, just get out of our way. Let mayors and cities do what they need to do to protect their neighbors and their neighborhoods. Why should guns be so different? Especially when there are basic, sensible things we can do right now to protect the children and families of this community. In the absence of sweeping reforms in Congress or the Ohio General Assembly to address this issue in a substantive way, we'll continue to act at the local level to empower our residents with knowledge and resources and to protect them however we can through prevention, intervention, and enforcement. We're not going to stop. We're not going to yield. We will not accept inaction or lack of courage or willingness to do what is right from the state legislature. We will continue to be innovative, creative, similar to the partnership we're announcing here today. This work is a collaborative undertaking. It's always been and it always will be. It's why we've assembled the broad coalition you see standing before you today. And know that we'll continue to enlist new partners and deploy new strategies until we realize the results our residents deserve. This community deserves to be safe. The children, the families, the seniors of this community deserve to be safe. And it means all of us are going to have to step up and do more. But when you put in place, after letting an assault weapons ban expire at the federal level, concealed carry, permitless carry, stand your ground, and now even the state doesn't want people to pay taxes on guns and ammunition. You got to pay taxes on diapers. You got to pay taxes, formula for your baby, insure for your aging parents. Think about that for a minute. That's why this work is so important, and we have to stay at it. With that, please Please welcome Deputy Chief Myers.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Chief Tim Myers with the Columbus Division of Police. Thank you, Mayor Ginther. Thank you to everyone that's on the stage here today. We're very happy to be able to facilitate this. This is an important part of the fight against gun violence. You've heard from the mayor about the gravity of this situation. I couldn't agree more. Just this year, almost 90% of our homicides have involved a firearm. Just this year, we've had 476 non-fatal shootings, which could have been homicides, but for the grace of God and oftentimes the exceptional care by the medical professionals in this community. I think we all understand that's unacceptable. And there are many parts to how we're going to address this. There are many facets. We have a part in, confronting folks and taking guns out of the wrong hands. Just this year, we have averaged 9 firearms recovered every day. Every day, the Columbus Division of Police has taken on average 9 firearms off the street. And that's up. That number has grown. Years ago, it was around 7 a day. This year, it's 9. We've recovered more firearms this year than this time last year, over 1,400 firearms just so far this year. So we have our part to play. And a lot of it's about taking guns out of the wrong hands and making sure that they don't fall into the wrong hands. And part of why we're here today is because sometimes the wrong hands are very small. This is a personal issue for most officers. There are many things after you've been a police officer for a while, you actually forget about most of the stuff that happens every day. It just sort of fades into the background of just randomness, right? But there are some things that you never forget. The first time that you respond to an accidental shooting or any shooting of a small child stays with you. The first one that I can remember, there are things that I will never forget for as long as I live. I remember the time of year. It was this time of year. I remember the age of the child. It wasn't even 2. It's, we're the first ones that are called. We're the first ones that show up. And what you see, it stays with you. I remember the blanket that he was wrapped in, the colors of the blanket, blue and yellow with, red. We have to do more. We absolutely have to do more, and we can't do it alone. So we're pleading with you, lock up your guns, keep them out of the wrong hands. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deborah Grayson with Be Smart Noble.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here to represent Be Smart Ohio. Okay, we'll start again. I am excited to be here to represent the Be Smart Ohio program as we announce this powerful relationship between Be Smart, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, or NOBLE, and the Columbus City Police. In 2018, as the nation witnessed a horrible tragedy at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, I found myself in a position of millions of other moms across the country. I was shocked, terrified, angry, scared, and desperate for an opportunity to do something, anything about the gun violence that was becoming commonplace in America. I didn't want this to happen to my son. I still don't want this to happen to my son or my family. Later that year, I discovered the Be Smart program. And since then, I have been a proud Be Smart advocate ever since. Be Smart is a wonderful framework. It's designed to help parents and adults normalize conversations about safe gun storage. It takes responsible steps to prevent child gun deaths and injuries through secure firearm storage. What I love most about the program is it brings gun owners and non-gun owners together, and they can talk together without it being a polarizing conversation. We just want to keep our kids safe. So over the past 5 years, I've presented on the importance of safe storage at school PTA meetings, faith groups, and professional organizations. And I and our team table at community events throughout Franklin County and other counties here in Ohio. I have been fortunate to work with some incredible partners who you see here today, and all of us are working together to save lives, which is why the announcement of today's partnership is so exciting to me. As Mayor Ginther said, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens in the United States. We've seen report after report of tragic incidents across the country where kids get their hands on guns that adults believed the guns were stored securely, but they weren't. And as you've heard before, this is a public health crisis. But it doesn't have to be. We can change this. We don't need to live like this, and definitely our kids don't need to live like this. We need to change this. Research shows that the most effective way to prevent children from accessing firearms is making sure all guns are securely stored, and that means that they're stored unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. Homes aren't the only place that children can access unsecured guns. Again, as Mayor Ginther said and Detective Myers said, a lot of guns are being stolen from cars where they're not secure in their vehicles. So if you have a gun in your car, it needs to be secured there as well. Gun violence in America is complex, and it's going to take many different solutions to help this problem. But right now, one thing we can all do right now is to normalize conversations about gun safety and the importance of secure gun storage. That's why I'm so proud that Be Smart has partnered with Noble. Since 1976, Noble has served as the conscience of law enforcement by being committed to justice by action. Alongside these incredible community leaders and partners, we will continue to promote conversations about gun safety and educate our community in Columbus about the importance of safe firearm storage. With our collective voices, Be Smart, Noble, Columbus City Police, and our other volunteers in our community, we will spread the life-saving message about safe gun storage. We have a table outside today at Rise Up C-Bus. You can get your free gun lock if you need one. These are supplied by Noble. And gun violence in all its forms is preventable. And we, as advocates, will continue to share the safe storage message. Thank you for being here. I'm going to introduce Melissa.
Thank you to everyone who has had Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children be part of this important conversation. I don't know if you picked that up, but the woman standing to my right, that was the last sound her son heard when he lost his life to gun violence in the city of Columbus. Could you imagine if that bar that he was at had a law or a rule or an expectation that because we sell alcohol, there are no firearms allowed, and the citizens and patrons of that bar paid close attention and abided by that? Her son would be with us today. Carry concealed. Could you imagine if I'm a student and I'm in my classroom and I'm ruffling around and I had this in my backpack? Now we're in a church and I'm a law-abiding citizen. This is a toy. But would you know that from here? If your son or your daughter is out playing with something, is there an orange tip? How many kids have died because of toys? Not knowing the difference in your household between your unlocked gun and a toy. We have to be responsible firearm owners. I'm a firearm owner. I run an organization that supports mothers who have lost their children to firearms. We're not saying we want to take your firearms from you. We're saying be responsible for the firearms that you have. If you had a free way to save a life, you could be that small portion in saving a life, a child's life. Would you do it? I think collectively we would say unequivocally yes. Well, the city is offering you a free way. Noble's offering you a free way. You can go to Columbus Public Health and get a free lockbox right now, 4:30. Come on down. Noble's giving locks for your guns. There really isn't any reason you can be a small part of this solution. All commit. In my household, I have stopped placing my firearm in my vehicle when I'm not there. I'm an educator, and I know how many guns are in the hands of youth. And typically, it's because of adult behavior. It's because we're irresponsible. It's because we're the ones that are supposed to be showing our youth a future of safety, and we are lacking that responsibility. I support 3,200 members, and out of those members, I can't tell you how many are that could be alive today if adults had responsible behavior. In a classroom, how easy is it for a real gun to be in that backpack? How easy is it for a real gun to come up in a church? How easy would it be if I wasn't a law-abiding citizen, if I had mental health issues, and I had a concealed carry firearm because of the laws, that every single one of you could be taken out right now? Now, it gets a little different when the gun is pointing at you. So I implore you, think about who and what you support. And once it hits your doorstep, would you think differently? My ending question, if you had a free way to save a life by just locking up your gun, would you do it?
I can share stories about being on scene, watching young people take their last breath, and trying to help them stay up, be aware of what's going on. It's just hurtful to see all these young people losing their lives to senseless gun violence and just them not knowing how to handle a firearm. Melissa just shared a toy gun. I deal with youth every day that may be playing with those toy guns or have real guns. They see what they see on the videos, on social media, all these different pranks and things that they want to try, and they're losing their life behind it. So by everyone standing behind me, if we're coming together to help your child, your loved one, we need your support. Lock your guns up, or just don't have a gun at all if you can't be responsible for it. I myself, I'm not a gun owner. I don't plan on being a gun owner. I just am covered by the grace of God that I'm out here and doing what I'm doing. I don't feel like I have to walk around with it on me. The kids nowadays say notion about staying dangerous, and that's just because of the company they keep and the environment that they in. They feel that they have to carry this to be safe. I'm here to tell you, you don't. I'm a product of Linden, and I show it every day. And what is on the news and everything else that depicts my community is not of my community. I am a product of my environment, and good things can come from it. So I'm standing you today to let you know, if you are a Linden or any other surrounding community in Columbus that gets that bad rap daily because of the senseless gun violence, stand up, join us, lock your guns up, get control of your kids, watch their social media, because they may be a good steward at home, but when they get out there in that community, trust and believe, they're a whole different person. And they're probably carrying a firearm in your house and you do not know it because they get good grades in school. Parents, you have to step up and get involved. To my youth, every last one of you knows someone that has lost their life to gun violence. And that get back is not it. We have mothers up here that are hurting every day because they cannot see their child. Do you want that to be your mother for you, to not see you every day? They can't go to visit their son or daughter in jail because you are the perpetrator. They have to go visit their gravesite. I don't want that for any child or anyone. So community, Columbus, you hearing this and see this, get involved. If you're a gun owner, lock your gun up or just don't own one. But get involved and get involved today. Thank you.
My name is Mama Diggs. That's not my given birth name, but that's what everybody calls me. And I think proper protocol has been established, and thanking everybody for us being here today. Thank you for Deb. She asked me would I say something, and I wanted to say no, but then I said, okay, I would. Thank you for Ms. Sheila for bringing us all together. She wanted me to tell you why I feel it's important for the Be Smart. I wanted you to repeat this after me. Be smart. No, everybody. Be smart. Be smart. Be smart. Be smart. Be smart. And lock up your weapon. I'm not going to say don't own a weapon because I know that people are like, you would take it out of my cold, dead hand. Well, we don't want that to happen. We want you to be smart and lock it up. We want you to be smart and keep it out of the reach of children. We want you to be smart and store it in a place, not your car. We want you to have a holster on you where you can put it in the holster if you have a CCW, concealed carry permit. I don't know why there's a W on there, but I guess it's concealed carried weapon. But if it was up to me, I'm like Ralph. If you come in my house and I'm at home, you better be ready to take out the trash, run the sweeper, and do some other stuff because ain't nothing to steal up in my house. The most valuable thing in my house at that moment is you. And you will be smart to get out because I don't have a weapon to shoot you. And I don't need a weapon to shoot you because I don't want you shot. I don't want to be standing and supporting Melissa's and the mothers, and I can't say the word because children aren't supposed to be associated with that. I don't want to be a part of the We Are Linden. I don't want to be a part of all the other groups that support people who have lost their loved ones. Ralph said mothers. How many fathers are suffering? Cousins, sisters, brothers, siblings, grandparents are missing their loved one because someone thought having a weapon and using it to resolve an issue was the answer. Come on, y'all, say it again. What I need you to do? Be smart. Okay, y'all not energized enough for me. What I want you to do? Be smart. And do what with your weapon? Lock it up. So I know y'all all like me. I got these security things, emergency kits. See this emergency kit. So if my car breaks down, even though I got AAA, I got flares and stuff to put out. At my house, I have a fire extinguisher. Why? Because I cook in there from the other room, as the children say. Mom, why are you in the other room cooking? I said, well, you know, you can smell it when the smoke detector goes off and starts beeping that you're burning up the food. I also have these things. I'm sorry, I forgot it echoes. I have a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector. Why? I want to be smart. Because I want to be safe in my home and in my automobile. And I want you to be smart and I want you to be safe by securing your weapon, putting it in those lock boxes, putting those locks that Noble is providing to you. We want you to be safe because I have been doing this since the 1980s, talking about gun safety, talking about children making it to their my age and older, talking about locking up your weapons. They wasn't giving them away back then. They're giving them away for free. They're giving them away for free. How many people like FREE free? If you like free, go and get their gun. Lock your weapon up, secure it, or better yet, just don't have one. Find someone to help you resolve those issues, that conflict. It is not worth it for your mother or your family to have to come and visit you and put what they call it, money on your books or flowers on your grave. It is not worth it. What do we want you to do? Be smart. Thank you. I'm introducing Pastor Tim Vincent. I'm going to say it because I've been practicing his name. So Pastor Tim is from First Community Church, and he's going to talk to you next.
Whew. I did not want to follow a fired up Mama Diggs. That's the worst place to be, but good afternoon. My name is Pastor Tim Van Sant from First Community Church. We're on the west side of Columbus. Sadly, gun violence is one of those terrible things that ties us all together. Most of us here have been affected by gun violence either individually or through someone we love. This occurs all across our country and all across Columbus. It certainly takes a toll on our most disadvantaged communities and neighborhoods. We often find ourselves divided by politics or circumstance. However, I do believe that we all want the same thing. We want our children to thrive, we want our neighborhoods to thrive, and for the threat of gun violence to be minimized to make that happen. Gun violence, of course, is a complex issue, has many layers to it. However, I have learned that we all have a place in decreasing violence, and perhaps the greatest thing we can do is collaborate. From faith-based organizations to nonprofits to governmental agencies to associations and down to each of us individually. We all have talents and opportunity to keep our children safe. First Community has worked with most of the organizations here in our gun violence prevention programs. I really commend the leadership and the foresight by Noble, Be Smart, Everytown, Columbus PD, and the City of Columbus to further gun violence prevention efforts and make this important collaboration a reality. This is the type of example that can see immediate impacts in our neighborhoods and keep our children safe, and it shows what we can do when we work together. I pray for this initiative and the continued efforts to keep our children and community safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marian Stuckey. I'm with Columbus Public Health. Limiting lethal means is an essential public health intervention. Each gun that is locked within the confines of a lockbox, we do our parts to save lives. It is a simple and tangible action that can single-handedly change many outcomes. It's a matter of life or death. The Lock Saves Lives program at Columbus Public Health is a free lockbox distribution initiative, providing education and one-on-one demonstration for each and every lockbox that we give out. Again, getting to know the person in front of us, what their questions are, just really being able to address any concerns that they may have. Our focus is to intervene with unintentional firearm injury, community violence, and self-harm. CPH continues to take a public health approach to reduce injury and promote awareness on life-saving practices related to firearm and prevention. We have been able to do this with strong partnerships and getting the word out. And as the title states, locks do save lives. Access to secured, safe space for guns and not just putting it out of sight, out of mind is critical to keeping guns out of the wrong hands, as we've heard today. Each day, CPH teams are working hard to provide lockboxes to those who need them. The caveat for us is we also see the other side of firearm injury, with programs aimed at intervention after injury and outreach to families after a violent loss. When we think about preventing the grief, the heartbreak, and the devastation of the news of another loved one lost too soon to violence, it makes locking each and every gun a necessity, and even more important. It's through partnerships, direct community outreach, and always looking for ways to share the word about safe storage that we can all do our parts. And from grassroots to city departments, as we've all heard here today, it's only through a unified message that we can all encourage, nudge, and sometimes even demand that guns be stored safely. There are countless stories about the impact of locking up guns and lockbox distributions, including from parents, grandparents, those that have received lockboxes from the Lock Save Lives program, to making sure that guns do not get in the hands of curious children and teenagers, and modeling the importance of safe storage. We encounter those who are planning to make a purchase, to those who have several firearms at home and are just looking to make sure that their homes are safe. And at times we've had situations like what took place at a recent event when a gun was recovered from a young person who was being bullied and didn't feel safe anywhere and had gotten a hold of a gun from home. Through quick intervention, counsel, and connections with resources, as well as family education, what could have been a deadly situation was avoided. We can reduce gun violence. And I'll repeat that. We can reduce gun violence. Yes. We all have a role to play. And we are proud to work with Mayor Ginther, CPD, faith organizations, community groups, parents, and all of you to build a healthier and safer community for all. And I'll welcome Deputy Chief Myers back to the podium.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Really appreciate it. At this time, we will take some questions.
I have a question.
I think one thing, and we'll take questions from the press, but I thought of this as we were talking about obvious threats to children and families of gun violence. But I was looking at Deputy Chief Myers in that uniform as well. You think about it, just this year, our officers have been fired upon 19 times. 1,500 illegal crime guns have already been taken off the street in the city of Columbus. Locking up your guns protect our police officers. Making sure you don't leave your guns in your cars are protecting our police officers, because those guns are ending up in the wrong hands. And we know that illegal criminal guns, there's a huge national trafficking network. And guns that are used in crimes or that were owned or sold in New York can end up in Columbus being used in a homicide and illegal gun activity. Protect our officers, protect our kids, lock up your guns. Any questions from the press? And then we'll take one from Deborah Diggs. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit more about how you think this new initiative will crack down on some of the more recent incidents of gun violence that we've been seeing in the Short North and other places throughout the city?
Well, this, I think, will specifically help us with the type of violence we've seen where young children, you've seen the videos, they're chilling. The young child, 4 or 5 years old, finding the gun in the couch and nearly shooting his face off. Guns that are lying around or that are not secure. It was just a couple of weeks ago that a 12-year-old, this stands out to me because my daughter's 12, 12-year-old found a gun and shot himself. 13 and 14-year-old in the next room came in and took the gun and wrapped it up in a hoodie sweatshirt and waited for adults to come. We're seeing that all over this city and cities around the country because guns are so prevalent, and the proliferation of guns over the last 20 years is staggering. But anytime we can disrupt and break up the gun trafficking that takes place in this part of the country and other parts of the country, places like the Short North and the Hilltop and Clintonville, the East Side, and the South Side are going to be safer. Deputy Chief, you have anything to add? Good. Any other questions from the press? Yes.
You mentioned a couple gangs, specifically on the west side, targeting shopping areas to steal guns out of cars. Do you have any numbers on how many guns have been stolen, or how many reports of thefts out of cars there have been?
I don't know if Deputy Chief has any current numbers, but we do know that there are a couple of gangs who have been able to supply most of the firearms they have needed to rob and steal and commit other violent crimes from stealing guns from cars. And it's not just shopping areas, but other places where firearms, there might be limitations on bringing those firearms in. And so people are leaving them in their cars. They're leaving them in their cars when they're heading into work in the morning. So they've got it with them. They leave it in their car to head into the office. Well, obviously that's a prime target for folks that are interested in violent crime and illegal gang activity. But Deputy Chief, any other comments to that?
Yes, sir. So generally, we've been seeing a trend. Most of the firearms that we recover were purchased legally at one point or another, and then they are stolen and used illegally. The other trend that we're seeing is, you probably heard, we've had an uptick in domestic violence-related homicides. Now, not all those involve firearms, but having an unsecured firearm in a domestic situation increases the chance of deadly violence.
Yes.
Do you have any figures on how reported thefts of guns are shaping up this year and how that compares to previous years?
Not a fan, no.
Do you believe that the criminal element that's using guns irresponsibly in the first place is going to step up and lock them up? I mean, it's not a matter of them not having gun laws. It's more intent and the ability and the want to use them.
Well, what we're seeing, Tom, though, is young people finding guns. The little ones finding it in the couch. This 12-year-old I described to you, just because it was unsecured. It hadn't been locked up. So we're not just talking about criminal element. We're talking about, as we mentioned here today, and Deborah and others spoke to it, and Melissa did, law-abiding gun owners. We need them to lock up their firearms and keep it separate from ammunition, not to leave your guns in your cars. So it's really a message about, safe storage, making sure that as a law-abiding gun owner, you're doing everything in your power to make sure your firearm doesn't end up in the wrong hands, either by a child finding it or being stolen, and it being used against our neighbors or our police officers or our children. That's our message here today, and that's where our focus is going to continue to be. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, you stated earlier, I think, that the Columbus Police have been fired upon 19 times this year.
That's correct.
Is that mostly down in the short north?
I don't think it's been all over the place. Deputy Chief Myers might be able to speak to that, but I think there are a number of other places. The short north was obviously one instance of that, and I believe, Deputy Chief, that the street takeover that officers responded to and were able to break up and avoid any further incident was another one there in Clintonville. Any other places?
That's correct. That's correct, sir. We're seeing it across the city, and it's typically in places that are associated with high incidence of gun violence. But it is a problem that I'm glad the mayor brought it up. It's very concerning to us.
Thanks, everybody. We'll stick around if you have other questions. Thanks for being here. What was your question?